Hey guys, and welcome to your first proper lesson in my wedding success planning course. So today we are starting off in the very first tier number 1. So remember, we spoke about the cake in the previous videos and how I've designed the 12 steps until you get to your amazing day. We're starting off in the very bottom, and that is tier number 1. And just so you know, when I look down, it's because my screen is in front of me and I'm just referring to my notes. So let's get into tier number 1. Now there are 3 aspects of tier 1. The first one is pre-planning, the second one is venue and guest, and the third one is engagement. Now today we're going to start off with the very first step, with the very first part of this tier, which is pre-planning. So let's look at the parts of pre-planning that we're going to deal with today. I've broken them down into little steps, and we're going to go through each one of these together, so do not be overwhelmed. You're going to understand it so much better when we get through, and it's not going to be that long. Okay, so number 1 is organizing yourself. Number 2 is imagining your big day. Number 3 is looking at your budget and your shareholders. Then we're going to look at the date and time for your wedding. We're then going to look at wedding insurance. And lastly, we're going to talk about counseling. So let's get into the first aspect, which is organizing yourself. So if we look at this pyramid or triangle, which is a stable geometric shape, we can see that there are 3 aspects that I want you to focus on. The first aspect is the actual foundation. Now the foundation is everything we're talking about in today's video. If you get those steps right, you're good to go. Your planning is going to go well and you're going to do great. The second aspect we're talking about is framework. Now, framework basically refers to everything I have given you. So it includes all the videos, all the resources, and the advice that I'm actually giving you and helping you, so that I've provided a skeleton. I've provided guidance, direction, things you should think about, resources that you can use. That's the framework that you're going to use to plan your wedding. The third thing is really important, because this is what you're bringing to this, which is completely and utterly unique to yourself. So if you think about it, this framework is being used by a lot of people, right? There are hundreds of courses out there on how to plan your wedding, tons of YouTube channels actually even on helping you plan your wedding. But nobody's wedding is identical. And the reason for this is because each of us are unique. We have unique likes and dislikes, and even if we choose the same color scheme, chances are there are going to be things that are different. And that's what I'm hoping for, because your wedding should not be like anybody else's. It should be unique. It's your special day, so what I want you to do is bring your vision, your uniqueness, what you see for your day. We're going to put all of these things together, and that's going to help us to plan an amazing wedding. Okay, so let's talk about the first aspect of getting organized. This refers to you finding a space, so somewhere where you can sit down and plan your wedding. Now, so this could be your kitchen space, it could be a table in your kitchen, it could be a desk that you have somewhere in your house, it could even be a space that you have outside. So if you're somebody who's creative and your creative juices flow when you're in nature, then by all means, choose a spot outside, by the park, by a lake, on a park bench, outside of your apartment. It really doesn't matter. The point is that you want to have somewhere where you can plan your wedding. Number 2 is that you need to decide whether you are a paper or a bites person. What does this mean? It just means, do you prefer planning with physical paper and pens and files that are physical and tangible, or do you prefer planning on a computer? Do you prefer your iPad or any kind of electronic device versus the physical stuff? And the reason this will become important is because you're going to have a lot of contractual documents and paper documents, whether it's, contractually as in a contract for a vendor or your venue, or a lot of information that vendors are going to provide for you. Maybe your caterers, your venue, multiple people are going to provide information to you in a specific way, and you have to decide how you want to store that information. Do you want to receive it via email, print it out and put it in a file, or do you want to just save it on your computer, your PC, your iPad in the cloud? Whatever it may be, it's going to be how you plan. And it's extremely important for you to be systematic, be organized, because there are multiple documents that you're going to get and you want to be consistent. you want to stay organized and you want to stay on track, because you need to realize that there are certain documents that are contractual. So there are going to be dates in there for certain deliveries that you might need to follow up on, or payment schedules that you might need to make. So you might be referring to these documents back and forth over a period of time, and therefore you need to have them sorted out, organized in a specific way, so when you need the documents you can easily refer to it, and it's in a way, in a system, it's filed in a way that you can easily get to it and refer to it, or even if your significant other needs to refer to it, that they can easily then find it and get the information that they need. And thirdly, you want to designate a time for planning. Now this might sound obvious to us, but I don't really think it is. I think that in order for you to be able to plan your wedding, you have to deliberately allocate the time in your schedule so that you don't become stressed and overwhelmed. The often most taken route in terms of planning a wedding is where brides just start. They're just like, if I have time on a Monday, I'm going to do a little bit there. I'm going to do a little bit on the Thursday. I'm going to do a little bit here. If I don't go out, I'll do this. And honestly, that is a recipe for disaster. Maybe you end up planning your wedding in the end, but the way that you get there is going to be super stressful. And if you don't have control and an allocated time in your schedule, you're actually just going to feel more stressed, because things are going to compound and eventually you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel stressed if you haven't allocated the time in your schedule. Realistically, if I have a job and I'm seeing somebody, we're engaged, I have friends, maybe I have other social obligations like going to church or volunteering in a group, or maybe I belong to a social club. All of these things are allocated time in my life, like my day-to-day activities, grocery shopping, cleaning, watching TV, going to the gym. These are all things that's in your life that already takes time. So in order for you to be able to plan a wedding, you need to then look at your schedule and figure out where you're going to allocate that time. If you're just going to see whenever you have time and try to do it that way, it's going to be extremely unproductive for you and you're going to be stressed. So think about your schedule and think about wedding planning as another thing that you have to do in your life that requires you to schedule it consistently. And I promise you, doing this is really going to help you. In the end of the day, if you are doing it alone or you're doing it with your partner and you sit together, you go through X amount of tasks, you get them done, you're just going to manage your time well, and essentially you're not going to be overwhelmed in the planning process. And what we're doing is we're ensuring that we're not going to be overwhelmed close to our wedding, because remember, that is my goal in this course as well, is to help you to do the maximum amount of stuff early on so that as you go closer to your wedding, you're reducing the stress. Okay, now let's move on to point number 2, which is imagining your big day. This is a critical and crucial step in planning your wedding, because your vision is actually the foundation. It's the tree from within which all the branches of your wedding are going to spread out. It's the core, it's the trunk, it's everything in your vision is what is going to direct every other step that you take from now on. This is something you need to take time with. If you don't have a clear vision right now, then I suggest you take some time to sit down and really think about it. Get together with your fiance and come up with your vision. Figure out, what it is you're doing. Why are you doing it? What is your dream? What do you see for yourself on the day? I've provided a resource. It's linked below, so go ahead and open that up. We're going to go through it together. But I really want to help you kind of get to a place where you have a solid vision. And your vision, I'm going to stress this right now, your vision does not have to be 100%. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a basic preliminary vision, a vision that's just going to help us know, are we doing a beach wedding, or are we getting married in a chapel? Are we going to be, eloping, or actually having a party? Is it going to be 1,000 people? Is it going to be 50 people? That's basically the rough order of magnitude. We're not looking for something that is super detailed and specific right now, because that's impossible. I understand that. If you do have that, that's fantastic. But if you don't stress about it. Let's just go through this resource, and together we're going to iron out your vision. Okay, so let's look at the first thing, which is your size. What are we talking about when we mean size? We mean how many people, how many guests are you going to have at your wedding? Is it going to be, maybe 2 or 3 people on a beach somewhere? Or is it going to be 50 people? Or is it going to be 100 people? Do you see yourself having 500 people at your wedding? Again, these are ranges I've provided you, and what you need to do is have a very rough idea whether it's going to be 1,000 or whether it's going to be 50. You don't need to know if it's going to be 26. Okay, that's not the level of detail that we need, but we need to know whether it's going to be less than 50 or more than 100. Then we're looking at seasons. So you need to figure out, when you close your eyes and imagine your beautiful day, what do you see? Do you see yourself having a wedding where it's super sunny and warm and it's summer and you have the summer breeze? Or do you see yourself having it in spring with lots of flowers and the smell of everything that's budding and the birds chirping? Do you see it being in autumn where you have the autumn colors and that kind of like magical feeling of autumn, with the wind and the colors? It's really a beautiful season. Or winter. Winter is also a stunning season. Maybe you've always wanted a snow wedding, a white wedding. That could also be an option. Every season actually has something beautiful to it. It just depends what you see for yourself. When you envision your day, what do you see? How many people do you see around you? What season do you see? If you just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just think about the perfect day that you have always envisioned, it will come to you. I mean, if you just focus on one thing at a time and not just the whole massive thing, these little things you'll realize you probably already have a feeling about. If you're the kind of person who doesn't really care, that's actually a really good thing, because you might be able to get deals on off-peak rates. We're going to come to that in the future, so just keep that in mind. You can, if in terms of the season, if you're not sure, just tick all of them, and then you can make the decision later on based on prices. So the next aspect we're looking at is dress code. Now, what do you see your guests wearing and what do you see yourself wearing? If you see yourself, for example, you see yourself on the beach in a beautiful cotton, like very thin wedding dress that's breathable, and all your guests are like super chill clothes, beach vibes, then this is the dress code that you're probably gonna have. Or maybe you see yourself in something that's a bit more smart. Maybe the guys are in tuxes and the girls are in cocktail dresses, and it's a much more formal event, and you see yourself in a gown that is a lot more formal. Then that's the dress code that you're actually going for. In terms of the type of wedding that you're looking for, is it a wedding that you're having inside a chapel in a church? Or are you having a more traditional cultural wedding that is not really in a chapel or a church? Maybe it's a traditional wedding, or maybe it's something that you have decided it can be religious and it can be a ceremony, but instead of having it in a church, you want to have it outside, you want to have it on the beach, but you still want that kind of structure to it, you still want the religious aspect of it. And depending on whatever religion you are, that's probably something that you need to think about, because it will be a driver in a lot of your decisions. You may decide to go with a traditional wedding view, or maybe you decide to go with the non-traditional. It depends. In today's society, I think, people like to mix it up. I, for example, had a registration in a church, and then I actually did a proper wedding, like ceremony and everything, but it wasn't in the church. It was in a lapa over a lake. So, it can still be exactly what you want it to be. It can still be beautiful, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a church if you want it to be traditional. Then we're looking at atmosphere. So what is the feeling? What is the ambiance? What do you see people, when you close your eyes, what do you see people doing? What do you see on their faces? What do you register in their emotions? Is it a happy feeling? Is it serene? Is it very calm? Or is it a party vibe? Those are the kind of feelings that you want to think about your guests registering. Now, that being said, you might have feelings in different parts of your wedding. So maybe for your ceremony, you have the feeling of, okay, this has to be super chilled, very serene, very calm. And then you think, but when it comes to the reception, I want that to be super pumped. I want it to be happy. I want it to be loud. That's absolutely fine. Just so you have the idea and you understand that's your vision, that's exactly what we're going for. So you're just going to put that down and make sure that you understand what atmosphere you're going after. And lastly, we're looking at decor. Now, when it comes to the decor of your wedding day, it's very different. Everybody is different, as I said. So it really depends, again, on a lot of the other things that you've said. Because, for example, if you're having a beach wedding, it's going to be difficult to have something that is extremely formal and fancy unless it's a specific resort that is willing to do this for you. So it kind of needs to gel together in some way. And these are some of the ideas. These are some pictures that I pulled off the internet that might give you some idea of what kind of decor you would be going for. So this one is very classic, very traditional. As you see, it's quite formal and upmarket, and I would envision that the guests who come to this wedding are also dressed accordingly. So they're probably in a tux and in a nice cocktail dress, or in a suit and a nice cocktail dress. They're not going to be in beach clothes. Not that I would, that's not the impression I get when I look at this. And then you have the food. As you can see, this is a plated meal that is also very upmarket. It is very elegant. It is almost like a tasting menu kind of vibe. So as opposed to if you're having a buffet and like a help yourself kind of meal, which by the way, I had at my wedding and everybody loved it, and I love buffets. But that's really also something that can guide you and help you decide what kind of wedding you're having. What is your decor for this kind of wedding? You know, if you're having something that is very chilled and relaxed, then are you going to have a plated menu? Like, you know, you kind of want to think what is appropriate for the vibe that you want, because everything is going to work together to create your day. Everything is kind of interlinked. So the atmosphere, you know, what people are wearing, what are they feeling, your decor, and even the food and how they're eating it, all of it is going to work together to create the experience. And so you kind of want to think about everything also in tangent with each other. This is such a cute little setting. I love this. I think it's super clean and it's beautiful. It's simple. I love the green and the whites, but as you see, this is kind of different from the first one. The first one was extremely elegant, very done up. This is still smart and formal, but it's not as elegant as the first picture. And then we have a rustic wedding set in a barn, and this is honestly one of my most favorite setups. And I tried to do my wedding like this as well in South Africa, and it's just beautiful. Like, I love this color combination. I love the wood, and this is a really stunning. This is elegant. It is beautiful. It's not super formal. It's not super elegant, but it is still smart. And so you can actually have a formal wedding in the sense of, you know, guys wearing a smart shirt and smart shoes. And then here you could definitely serve a plated menu. Your dress could also be formal, and your guests could be dressed formally as well. But they're on the lower end of the spectrum. Or the middle of the spectrum. They don't need to wear tuxedos, for example, and you don't need to serve a plated menu here. And then the lower end of the spectrum would probably be like super chilled beach vibes, slops, relaxed clothes, like not formal at all, maybe open-toed shoes and open shoes. So that would be the other end of the spectrum. And I feel like this one is kind of in between. This is a beautiful example of a beach wedding. I love the setting. I think the colors are just so beautiful. It's so serene. It's really just lovely. And as you can see here, this is also plated. So you can see that even though this might not be like a fine dining type vibe, but it definitely is beautiful and elegant, and you're still going to have a really nice meal. That being said, you could totally do a barbecue here. You could do a buffet style here. Like, it really is up to you. You would just change decor and your plating to suit your food. I'm so proud of you for completing your first lesson, and now I wish you the best of luck in going ahead and getting yourself organized and getting your vision done so that we can move on to the next step. I'll see you in the next one.